So the achievements that I've made, like I was mentioning before, if somebody that's younger than me that wants to do something similar, but doesn't believe they have the skill set or, wherewithal to do it, see me do it, right? I believe that they'll have a better opportunity to achieve the same. So that's why I try to put other people in a similar position as me.
I'm Tracy Lovejoy.
And I'm Shannon Lucas. We are the co-CEOs of Catalyst Constellations, which is dedicated to catalyzing innate change makers to accelerate positive change around the world.
This is our podcast, Move Fast, Break Shit, Burn Out, where we highlight catalysts that are creating amazing change in the world. And to that end, we are very excited to have time today with Ryan Clark. Ryan is a Microsoft MVP and Principal Solutions Architect at Mr. SharePoint, a consulting firm that he founded that's responsible for building some of the world's most beautiful and effective corporate intranet portals, leveraging SharePoint and Microsoft 365. Ryan is also the co-founder of Equity Twins, a residential real estate company that he started with his twin brother in Chicago, and Ticket Falcon, a Black-owned event management and ticketing platform with instant payouts for in-person, virtual, and hybrid events. Thank you so much for being here today with us, Ryan.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'd love to start out by asking, how is it that you relate to the term catalyst?
Well, to me, it's about being a change maker. I noticed that for me, it's important to affect change because there's a lot of people out there that want to do things, but they need to see it in order to achieve it themselves. So I want to be that person that they see so they can know that they can do certain things and be certain things.
That makes perfect sense. And what is it that you're catalyzing these days? Would love to hear a little bit about what's going on for you as a catalyst.
I mean, for me, I want to create more entrepreneurs. I want to create a more diverse space for entrepreneurs because even in my space, I don't see too many Black and brown faces. Honestly, I feel like I'm like the only one that's more prominent, and I want more people to be more prominent. There's no reason why I should be the only one.
And so what does that look like for you? How are you catalyzing that?
Well, number one, breaking down barriers, right? So the achievements that I've made, like I was mentioning before, if somebody that's younger than me that wants to do something similar, but doesn't believe they have the skill set or, wherewithal to do it, see me do it, right? I believe that they'll have a better opportunity to achieve the same. So that's why I try to put other people in a similar position as me. I know that earlier in my career, if I didn't have people that believed in me and actually encouraged me, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I want to be that same type of catalyst for other people, right? Because there's a lot of space in this market. There's no reason why they can't achieve similar things or even be greater, but they shouldn't have to work as hard as I have.
They should have to work as hard as you have?
They shouldn't.
Oh, they shouldn't. They shouldn't have to. Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. And so when you talk about, you, as an entrepreneur, right? Often entrepreneurs are working on their own. And so what does it look like to create spaces and opportunity to connect with other folks when you're working as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So the key point is that I have clients, I've built relationships, and they have opportunities where I might not be the best fit, right? And I'm pretty good at identifying those. However, there are other people that have those skill sets that I can put in those opportunities. That's more so of not mentoring, but more of a sponsorship. So I can sponsor somebody else to be in the same client that I'm at, but doing different work, right? Getting somebody through the door, essentially.
That's really interesting. And we didn't talk about this before, so forgive me if I'm putting you on the spot. Does this relate to a sense of purpose for you?
Absolutely. And I know before we jumped on this recording, we were talking about like the idea of like being successful, right? And then how I'm actually trying to be significant. And to me, success means nothing unless I'm able to bring others along the way, right? I wake up and do the work that I do, and it's purposeful and meaningful to me, but it doesn't mean anything to me unless I bring other people along the way. I want to see other people succeed and know that I had a strong purpose in allowing that to happen or making that happen.
When you became an entrepreneur, did you already know that this was a core piece of your purpose, or did that evolve once entrepreneurship had begun?
It evolved over time, and I remember seeing it. I remember like it was yesterday. I would be walking downtown. This is back when I worked in a corporate job, walking downtown, to my job. And I remember I would look around and I didn't see many people that looked like me going up into these big buildings, doing these nice elaborate jobs. I didn't see any of that. I just saw myself. And I remember saying, I've got to change that. whether if I can bring somebody into a corporation or build something myself and allow other people to work with me by building it up from the ground. And I chose the build up from the ground piece. It's just more meaningful to me that way.
I hear you say that, and it seems like so obvious, like almost that everyone would have that. And yet it's not something that all people think and experience. And it's really, it really hits me, the intentionality with which then you have grown yourself as an entrepreneur, and that you think about networking. Like it's almost like the entrepreneurship serves the ability to mentor and sponsor, rather than you're like, oh, look, I'm a successful entrepreneur and now I want to mentor and sponsor.
Right. And part of that is, you know, I'm an identical twin, right? I'm used to sharing, right? I'm used to being in a space where I'm sharing, right? So that's why I'm more so giving, and it's just natural for me.
Yeah, that is such a powerful way for catalyticness to exist in this world. It strikes me in a really emotional way. So I appreciate you sharing that. In this journey of entrepreneurship and in sponsorship and mentorship, what are some of the key learnings that have emerged for you?
I think one of the biggest learnings for me is that I don't see mistakes as failures. I see them as opportunities to learn and to do better. As a matter of fact, I expect to fail at something every single day, but it's going to make me stronger, right? And then also to know that, you know, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And I never wanted to be in a position to say, what if I would have done this? I go out there and I just do it, right? Entrepreneurship is about execution. If you're not able to set goals and things of that nature and execute against them, then I don't believe you're a true entrepreneur. We go out there and get things done.
How did you come to learn that? Was that born to you, the idea that fail every day, or?
Yeah, I mean, just when I was younger, you know, and I really learned the true value of $1 and how to actually start a business. I mentioned this earlier before we started this, that, you know, I started a leaf removal and snow removal business, and I had to learn how to grow a business. How do I go and service, you know, clients? How do I get customers, right? For example, I had to go out there and learn how to do that. And there are times when, you know, a young Black boy as myself who lived in a predominantly white neighborhood, I knock on somebody's door that happened to be white, and they would slam the door in my face immediately. How do you handle that as a young kid? Well, I know, just even going back to my grandfather, who he was running for mayor of Houston at the time. I remember this vividly. We would go from door to door, telling people like, hey, you know, we're running for mayor. Can we encourage you to, can we get your vote? How can we convince you to vote for, you know, my grandfather? And I remember one time he knocked on somebody's door. I was standing next to him. My brother was standing next to him too. Before he can get a word out, this white man opened the door and slammed the door in his face. And to me, I felt like crying, honestly. I was like, that was the most disturbing thing I'd seen. And I remember I looked at him, he said, you know what? One person does not stop the show, we must go on, right? And that has driven me to understand that don't let somebody else ruin what you have, you know, going on in life. We weren't meant to just live, we were meant to thrive. I want to thrive in my life. I work hard to do so.
I wanted to cry as you told that story. So I so appreciate you sharing. That emotional response you had. And it's interesting. These aren't words you used, but it's the feeling that I got in thinking about that is like, you can't let that person have power over you, right? Like if I sit here and I go home, right, they decided what I get to do versus you deciding.
Exactly.
I can imagine for myself that might take quite a bit of energy to be able to kind of manage my emotional state, you know, fill up and go knock on that next door. And it sounds like this has been kind of a lifetime that you are like, I am going to keep knocking on the next door, right? As a metaphor. What do you do to sustain your energy through this journey?
I mean, honestly, you know, I'm social, right? I enjoy being around other people. I enjoy uplifting other people. But part of my journey is to live by experiencing. And in order for me to experience, I love to travel. That's part of the reason why I became an entrepreneur, to be able to have that flexibility to do so. So I'll work very hard 1 week here or 2 weeks there, and I'll go take several days off and I'll go to Africa, or I'll go to Italy or wherever it might be. Because I can work from anywhere, right? I might work 1 day on, you know, have 1 day off, but I couldn't necessarily do that in a corporate job. And to me, it's kind of like when I was younger, right? When we were younger, we would read something in a book, but it wasn't the same unless you went out there and experienced it yourself, right? It's not the same. And so I want to experience everything I possibly can. And that's why I work the way that I do. It sustains me.
It's interesting because there's a lot of catalysts that we get to talk to that have that deep sense of purpose in the way it sounds like you do. But often there's not the permission then to fill up, to go and have these experiences. And it seems like it's just so natural for you that you're like, I work hard and then I go and I do something that's really important. Has that always been with you, that permission? Like, okay, I worked hard and so now I can go fuel up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because otherwise I'd be so drained and so tired all the time, I wouldn't be able to do much. But one thing about me, I've been told that I always seem like I'm happy all the time, but I've never had a cup of coffee in my life. I'm just really excited about life in general, right? And to be able to encourage others. And so that high level of energy you see from me is just natural. I've had it.
What is the most fueling for you in the work?
So what's the most fueling for me?
Yeah, like what is your coffee then?
Being able to get up and be great at something, right? Your tomorrow is determined by the choices you make today. So I want to make better choices each day as time passes, right? So I can have a better tomorrow. That's what drives me.
Damn, that's pretty powerful. Any challenges that you've been experiencing, Ryan, as you have been mentoring and sponsoring the folks around you?
I think the biggest thing for me, and this has changed, over time when I became an entrepreneur, was especially in corporate America, just the implicit racism that I've experienced. And I'm just going to be honest because it's part of my story, it's part of my journey. And by implicit racism, I mean, you may have people that may be in powerful spaces that will afford opportunities to people that are just like them or similar to them, but not afford the same opportunities of people that are not like them. And I've experienced that time and time again, to the point where I said, you know what, I have to get away from corporate America for a while. And when I became an entrepreneur and started freelancing, those barriers began to break down. No longer were people, only providing me opportunities because, not providing me opportunities because of certain reasons. I was getting them because I was good at the work I was doing. They didn't look at the color of my skin. They looked at the level of quality work that I was doing, and I started to get opportunities that way. And so now I feel like it's just a whole nother playing field for me. I'm good at the work that I do, so I should be afforded, those opportunities. Also, I believe that we all deserve a seat at the table. It's just that some of us have to, fight harder to be at that table. And that's unfair. It'll be that way.
Mm-hmm. Those are some intense challenges it's amazing to hear the positivity and optimism that you can lead with given the daily experiences that sit underneath that. So thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. Any challenges in the sponsorship and mentorship and the way that you're kind of catalyzing? It's like, I imagine kind of the ripple you see on the water, right? How you're bringing that out, or has that part been pretty seamless?
It's been seamless. It's just more so about having the right amount of time. Because even like if I go and speak in front of audiences, after I speak, you may get a few people that say, hey, can you mentor me? Can you help me? I can't help everyone, but I'm very specific with who I do work with, right? We should have the ability to choose, just like somebody might want to choose me to mentor them, right? I should have the ability to choose who I choose to mentor, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm very specific about that relationship because I want it to be very successful. I don't want it to die down. I don't want it to, fizzle out. I want it to continue to thrive and grow. So I'm very specific with that.
What does it look like when you create a mentorship? It sounds like this is a commitment for you and you're kind of looking for something back and forth. How do you set this up? What does this look like?
I mean, it's more than just sending a text message or an email. Like, let's get together, let's actually do things that we can experience fun moments in life, but I can still mentor in those moments. We don't have to necessarily just be on a phone call all the time. It's more so about, to me, forming like a brother, like a brother-sister relationship, or it could be a brother-brother relationship. But I see you more than just a person. I'm trying to make you become more like family, right? Because we look out for each other, and it's a better bond to me that way.
I want to make 1 million of you so that we can populate you in every organization in the world, because think of how beautifully connected and yet successful organizations would be if everyone brought the mentality in that you're driving every day. So thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to turn it over to Shannon for a few rapid fire questions.
Okay. I'm glad I had a moment to pull myself together. Thank you. All right. We're going to pivot a little bit later in 2 minutes or less. What actionable nuggets of advice do you have for catalysts out there? Or said another way, what do you wish you had known when you were 20?
When I was 20, take risks. I think when you're younger, you have better capacity to take said risks. I wish I would have taken more risks when I was younger, and I think I might be in a slightly different place than I am now. But because I was more conservative at the time, it took me a little bit longer to get to where I am now. Take more risks.
Is there a specific risk you can tell us about quickly that you wish that you had taken?
Yes, this is a true story. So there was and I can just be honest, as a company called Grubhub that was just forming at the time. I had an opportunity to be, I think it was like the 5th employee.
Wow.
Right? But I had to take 2 buses and a train to get there, and I ultimately turned down the offer. And I look back at that now and I'm like, well, if I would have been the 5th employee, and let's say I would have been able to stay at the company, they IPO'd and everything, that could have been a major life-changing event for me. But I turned down the opportunity because of the level of travel that was required for me to get there every day. I wish I would have taken a risk and actually done it.
I'm just curious, what is your relationship with regret?
It's a tough thing for me to talk about because sometimes, regret can hold you back.
Right.
And I try not to be regretful. That's why I try to find the silver lining in some of these things.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe I didn't take that opportunity, but maybe something else happened as a result of not doing it, that I can find some positivity out of. So I try not to have regret.
Yeah, because I hear that in your story. It's like a lot of people, that would be like an albatross around their neck. Like, oh, I didn't do that. It'd be the reason why other things in their lives just weren't whatever. But I don't hear that at all in you. You're just like, and I continued on this path and I continued blazing trails. So I love that. All right. So you have spent some time working with executives in the corporate world. What advice would you have for them for finding and leveraging their catalysts?
Really have true, honest conversations with people. Right. And I've really taken upon myself to just be my natural self. Sometimes we get around this idea, and you may have heard this, called code switching. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to talk about it, but I feel like I just have to talk about it. Whereas, I might change my pitch or my tone or just my overall being just to be in certain areas or certain places. I've chosen not to do that anymore. What you're going to get with me is the real me all the time. And so I just encourage other executives out there, be your real self. Because if you're being your real self, I can almost guarantee you'll help bring out the real selves in other people that you're around.
And it's so powerful. I remember the moment when I stopped doing some of that code switching and how freeing it was. I was like, I could just be myself. And I wasn't as awkward in my own skin. Like I was just better at things, Exactly. All right. So what's the worst part about being a catalyst?
The pressure, right? I always feel like I cannot make mistakes. So I feel like I'm under scrutiny of, if I do make mistakes, it's going to just be blown up into something that it doesn't necessarily need to be, right? However, I embrace that in such a way where I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with making mistakes because it's a learning opportunity for others and not just myself. I'm human, right? It's kind of like, you're growing up and you see your parents as just the most perfect beings. And then you get older and you realize that they are human. They make mistakes. They made mistakes, right? Same thing happens in the business world. And so just by me being that type of realistic person and that natural person, it has afforded me much better relationships, and they're stronger, right? I care about the strong relationships.
I just love this thread of like authenticity that pours through everything you say, and how incredibly powerful it is if we sit in our own authentic power. All right. What's the best part about being a catalyst?
The best part is just being able to talk to people and you see a spark happen. You say one thing, you say a couple of things, and their eyes just open up. And to me, that's one of the most rewarding things, to be able to have that type of impactful change.
Hear, hear. And we, as Tracy said, need like 1 million more of you to do that. All right. Is there a call to action for our listeners that you want to share?
My call to action would is look at people for what they are able to do, how they're able to perform. I want to help get rid of these biases and this inherent implicit racism that exists. Look at people for what they can do and what they can offer, not because of the color of their skin means that they shouldn't have opportunities. Like I said, we all should be able to sit at the same table. And that's what I'm pushing for.
Amen. Thank you. We are so excited, Ryan, to continue to watch the progress of Mr. SharePoint and Equity Twins and Ticket Falcon and all the young people that you're mentoring and sponsoring. Like, I hope we get to circle back in a year and be like, yes, this is all the stuff that we've done in the last year.
Please do.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to learn more about how to accelerate positive change, go to our website at catalystconstellations.com.
And be sure to check out our book, Move Fast, Break Shit, Burn Out. If you have other catalysts in your life, hit the share button and send a link their way.